that happens along the way when we practice and we're paying attention to our spiritual life and we're really interested in enlightenment, is that we change. And we become more fluid, easier to change, easier to let go. So, the first thing we have to realize is what it is we're hanging on to. First we have to see that. And in order to see it, we have already been practicing for a while. We're interested in change and letting go. And then we slow down, so we can see what it is we're attached to. Because sometimes we just don't see it. We just don't see it. For example, I have a strong love of health things. You know, a way to get healthy. Just happen to really enjoy all of that. And then my sister-in-law comes along, and I say to her, "You've got to see this video. It's just the best. It can cure cancer. It can do all this stuff." But she's a very strong leader. And she was right. She has this ungodly only God fix things. But what that says to me is that even the medical profession, which is the lowest on the list of my, even the medical profession can heal you. But it's not they that are healing you. It wasn't meant to be. It's God behind the scenes that's healing. And so that statement the Ramana Maharshi made years ago, what will be, what will not be, will not be. And that means you can go to the health profession, you can go to the hospital and stay there. And you will be healed if it was meant to be, and you will not be healed. And never mind what you think about what doctors do. You can be healed anywhere. So, but I had this strong thing, you've got to see this, and I realized I have a biased view. I have a biased view. So from this level, I believe in certain ways that will heal and certain ways that will not heal. And then I had to really reflect on that yesterday, because I was so pushy with her to listen to this video. I said, no more of that. No more. The ability to see what you're doing and then change on a dime. Drop it. Absolutely drop it. And that goes for the video, my email to Alfredo, Mariella's husband. She's in the hospital now with cancer, and I'm saying, bring her to Mariella. If you love her, bring her to Mariella. She's going to heal her. And I wrote back another email and said, only God knows. Just for myself not to take a position. I still have that strong feeling, but I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to push it. So, as we go along in the process, first we see what we're doing, we're able to see better what we're doing, and then we have the ability to stop it very quickly. very quickly. And it's such a revelation in a way, because you're freer from that too. You know, I'm freer from that. We all do the same thing. We all have opinions about things and views. I wrote that email to Alfredo today, only God. She could be in the hospital and die. She can be in the hospital and live. She can go to Mariella and die. She can go to Marie and die, or she can go to me and live. Only God does all this stuff. Only the self. So if something is meant to be, it will be. If it's not meant to be, it won't be. And leaving this world is not such a bad thing, you know, to move on to another reality, another real estate place, another place is all right, perfectly all right. But we have a myopic view, you know, oh, we've got to save this person, absolutely, let it go. Nobody lasts in this world. It's all right, everything is all right, and God does everything perfectly. And there's an element of trust in all of this. You're not the doer. The subject is trust today. Actually, it was meant to be that, because I saw this video with Gina, he was saying, so let me speak a little bit about trust. Trust is letting go. Trust is surrendering. Trust is beginning to see that there is something else going on here besides what you think and your view is. Now understand, some of us approach the reality with discrimination, like I am, and that works beautifully. Beautifully. That's what Ramana taught. He was also able to teach surrender, but he never really talked about surrender. You just go to reality, which he was just a great example of, the truth. And he could teach surrender too. He could teach devotion, which is surrender. Devotion to God means you surrender to God. And as I said earlier, the more you practice, the more you are able to shift. More able to let it go. But first you have to see what it is you're doing. And that comes from practice, and that comes from the desire for liberation, that it really matters. So trusting in the infinite. There's a huge, the word huge does not really explain it at all. Because huge suggests that there's something else like small, tiny. But there's only the reality, there's only formless consciousness. At the very essence of our being, there is only the formless reality, which is consciousness, which really means that there's an alive intelligence that permeates all the universes. There's an intelligence at the very core of reality. That's what handles everything. We think we're going along and handling things, but actually we're not. And the more we're aware that we're interjecting a particular judgment and view of things, the better off we are. Because when we relinquish and see that really, who do you think you are to say to these people, I have a biased view and trust this? All through these last 5 years, I've had a strong vibe on Donna Marie for healing. She does my biomagnetic therapy. I put flyers out there. I've gone to her myself. I felt exactly what, like I thought I had breast cancer and it was painful here. But so I go to about 3 or 4 times, the pain's gone, everything goes away. However, it didn't stay away, it's still something here, but I'm not worried about it. If it comes up, I'll go there. But the point is, we have a bias and we don't even realize it. We do not realize that the undercore reality is what's handling all of this. And that to think that this world is the be-all and end-all is really missing it. This is more like an opportunity for finding what God is, and that God runs through the universe. The very foundation of reality is God. Is intelligence and love, both. And its very essence. So, this is a process for all of us as we go along, and I'm willing to share what I experience and how it affects me. How I don't even realize sometimes what I'm doing. And it's good to see, because then it releases energy, because after I discovered that about what I was doing, my energy immediately shifts. More of it. Have more energy. Learning to trust is not an easy thing to do, because you're really giving up your stance as an ego self. Say that again? You're giving up your position as standing in, misidentified with the body, mind, and me. You're giving it up in order to trust something other that you're not really familiar with. It's unfamiliar. And over the years, you build up trust because you've seen how that worked out, and that worked out, and that worked out. That's kind of in the early stages of spiritual development. You see, you get a track record, you see that something is operating here. It helps you to develop the strength, to let go, not to be worried about money so much. Because you see the money was available to you when you needed it. You've seen it. Most of us go through life and we don't register the fact that these things have worked out. We don't even recognize it. But if you're on a spiritual path, you recognize, my, that worked out. How about that? We develop trust in something we're not really used to. It's the other side of our being, the being that's formless. So, let me play more Gina, see what he has to say, because I played these things, but then I don't remember what's there.
You were speaking from a 90-degree note, which he didn't believe he knew. Just like if you go to your father and you say, "Father, I don't have any money, please could you send me some money?" You phone your father. Will you send some money for me? I need it urgently. He says, "Okay, tell me what to do. Give me your account. Give your account." Then he says, "Okay, I will send it." Then immediately your heart is at peace because you have that trust. Not you don't believe, I believe he will send. No, you know. Already you start to say to people, "Okay, fine, now we can go on your feet because my father sent me something," because you have that trust. That is trust. There are some people who cannot trust.
Thank you.
They just won't trust something inside them. No, they just. Until I see it in my hands, I won't. And they are said also to be wise, because somewhere it says, a promise is a comfort only to a fool. It's saying this. And don't live on promises. So it can seem contradictory. In one case, just say a word, but that must be someone who you know in your heart you trust so fully in your heart. But if you are only accepting promises from people who flatter you, then you will soon find out that there was a mistake. Don't make the promises. So all these things point to a kind of a flexibility, an intuition, a sensitivity, a maturity, an inner maturity that is immeasurable. It just brings out of this. And one thing I would want to emphasize more and more is not only the wisdom factor of spirituality, but actually the trust, the love, and the faith factor also is important. Because otherwise you can learn things and you know it in your mind, you feel really clearly sure, but you don't have the power. You understand? You don't have the power because you have no trust. You can know these things, you have what I'm speaking now, you know these things in mind, you can speak eloquently about it. But when it comes down to on the ground, we don't have that trust. You don't step forward, and when they come to fight, you will not fight. You say, "No, I can't fight, I'm not the person," and so on. There's a time when you have to stand up and fight. Because that's the time. And you do this because you trust, and you know that life calls you to this. Can you drop yourself? This is why I keep asking, can we drop ourselves? Because if you're constantly holding yourself, there's lots of places you will not go. There's lots of boundaries you will not cross. So therefore, your knowledge will be strong only intellectually. But you won't have the potency, you won't have the authority. Because inside, it hasn't touched trust, it doesn't touch faith. And this, I would say, is one of the obstacles, the possible obstacles, to a path, you may say, like inquiry or something, that it can seem entirely mental, but you can have the understanding of this. But then life draws you into situations to activate and to bring what you know in your mind into your body and your heart to express it. This is why this manifest life, terrestrial expression of life, is also very important because it is the testing ground for what you claim to know internally. Life will bring you into situations to see if what you say here is how how you can act here, so that your behavior and your thought, your mind, your so-called knowledge and faith are together, and trust. Whereas there's foolish people with faith, or knowledge is not, faith is not necessary. Faith is to do with something less of it. They don't know the power of faith, the beauty of faith, the greatness of faith, actually. Because human beings are instinct with faith. Faith makes us do many things. Trust makes us do many things. We are living by trust. When you go into a restaurant, you have a trust that the chef has not been blowing his nose in his hand, and so he's not cooking the food with his hand, or going to the toilet and not washing his hand, or not poisoning your food. When you get on a bus, you have a trust that the driver hasn't had a quarrel with his wife or with her husband and decided today I'm going to crash this thing. When you fly an airplane, you have a trust that somehow your pilot is not drunk, or you have a trust. Because life is trust. But somehow we can have a sense of mistrust, carrying the weight of mistrust inside the heart. Now I say, not necessarily that one has to go trust towards people, or mistrust. But there can be a kind of neutrality. But this neutrality is not dead. It also has to be a heart quality neutrality, if you follow what I mean. It's not an excuse to avoid decision making. It is a very, very high posture. But it is a heart quality. It's not just a mind quality. And if we are living only in mind quality, you see, something life will show you the argument. Because life also, if you have not a personal guru, life is your guru. It will keep on bringing you to places to dip your face in the water of your own claims, to see if you can stand, if your heart and your life will stand up to what you claim is true. So this is a magnificent life, a magnificent opportunity to play this game. All of us came into this world to play this game so far. I can put it like that. And you can be in this game for a very long time. And you can come out of this game. Or at least go beyond, not be a victim of the game. Pretty self-evident that we need to, and life will teach us how to let go and how to trust. Like I was saying, that's how I learned, was through watching in retrospect what had happened and how this mysterious whatever
was instrumental in making things work out. This mysterious thing is what we are. So he's talking to people in the beginning, like learn to trust. You have no power if you don't trust. Trust really means letting go of your particular story, your particular way of seeing things. And seeing if something else can take over. How about that? We're always seeming to control everything. If I don't do this, it's going to fall apart, something to that effect. But it doesn't. Or if it's meant to, then it will be. You take the position of not being concerned about it, not worrying about it, letting it go. Can we do this?
Activity.
That's great.
In daily life, you do things and then up to a point you're needing to let somebody else take over. Is that also trust? I'm a little confused. I mean, you can only go so far, and then somebody else has to take over, and you get the consequences, good or bad, or completed, or whatever it is.
Okay, but not even having to go to the very limit, you can let go. It's more about things that really affect you, like fears. Like fears like, oh, I won't have this money, or this won't work out. The thought in the mind, this is not going to work out, that could be let go of. So whatever you do, whether you carry it forward, you're still doing it, or whether you let somebody else do it, it comes from the mind originally that you can't, that you have a fear that it won't work out.
But in order for us to let go, do we see the consequences of it?
No, not even go down that place. It's a letting it go to God that does everything perfectly. So not to worry about consequences. I mean, not to worry, not to be concerned about consequences, but to simply